What would you say are sort of the biggest cost levers for improving margins on oversized items that are shipping internationally? Is there anything like a brand can do to sort of like, hey, we can streamline other than using your service, obviously? But is there anything that they could do on their side to kind of optimize costs?
Well, absolutely, yeah. So we do a lot of this kind of work with our customers, which is basically help them with package design, right? So,
Good
uh,
call.
like a lot of the listeners who ship smaller items would probably know like the oversized rules for UPS and FedEx, the girth and
Mhm.
longest size and things like that. So, if you go above a certain length, you get hit with oversized fee or overweight fee and things like that. For bulky items, a lot of what we're running into is you're delivering something very big to a residence typically, right? And it
Mhm.
needs to come off the truck and into the house. So a lot of times, if it doesn't fit on a lift gate, you need like it complicates things exponentially, right? So, for example, um, something that's you know we handle a lot of health equipment.
Mhm.
Think of cold plunges and saunas and things like that. So
Yeah.
as a plunge could be under 2 meters long or over 2 meters long, right? If it's over
Mhm.
2 meters, now all of a sudden you need a crane to lower it to the ground. That makes your
Yeah.
delivery like $500 higher, and that's just like
Yeah.
that. That could be the reason why you can't compete. Whereas
Sure.
another brand might have the package under 2 meters, and that's just significantly cheaper to handle. So a lot of times we'll work with brands to redesign the packaging, redesign how the stuff is palletized, or we'll work with ways to minimize damages. So a lot of the sort of value at work goes into this kind of optimization, which results in significantly cheaper rates, and therefore obviously you're more competitive and your conversion rate goes up.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. So kind of what you're helping to unlock is essentially that global e-commerce expansion, right? Your goal is to kind of lower the barriers and ship direct. So like walk us through some of that, like the goal or sort of some of the outcomes that you've maybe seen. Is there like a recent example, maybe, or case study that you can off the top of your head go, yeah, we did this for a client, it unlocked this for their global expansion. That'd be a cool story.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the companies we're working with now, they're in onboarding stage. They're not an active client yet, but it's a really good example.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll talk about that one. This is a company that sells exercise equipment, and they are celebrity endorsed. So they have a global
Nice.
celebrity who just signed on, and the celebrity talks about this product on social media, right? And if you're spending marketing dollars on social media, you obviously have a lot of control on where your ads are displayed, which countries they're served in, and you can limit the sort of the scope. When you have a celebrity endorsement, um, celebrities by design have followers everywhere, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if a celebrity tags your product, and all of a sudden, you're getting all this traffic from Europe, and you're in
Right.
US,
Yeah.
you're like you haven't spent any money to get in traffic in Europe, but you get all this traffic, and they all come to your website. They all go on your shopping cart, and as soon as they enter their location, you say, "Sorry, we don't ship to your country,"
Yep.
right?
You're out of
So
luck.
you're out of luck. So 90% of it typically they just move on. They're like, "Oh,
Yep.
too bad I can't buy this product," right? The 10% will actually reach out. They'll DM you, they'll message you, and they'll email you, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm in France. Like, how do I buy your product?" Right? And then you gotta
Mm-hmm.
go through this manual coding process and all that. So this brand we're working with is exactly that. We talk to them, and they're like, "Hey, we just signed on like a celebrity endorser, and now we're getting all this traffic spike in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can you do?" Right? And we're like, well, what we can do is we can enable everybody in Europe to buy your product, and without
Right.
you having to have any distribution there, without you having to register and collect and pay taxes in Europe, right? So
Mm-hmm.
uh, for the brand, there's no sort of exposure. It's not a lot of lift to all of a
Right.
sudden start selling in Europe. So that's and it's and talking to the owners and the executives of the brand, they're like, yeah, we thought expansion to Europe is like the next big thing, and we were planning to do it in maybe late 2026, maybe
Hmm.
2027 when we have resources for it. Like we had no idea we could actually start selling there because we didn't know, like, all right, FedEx can handle our stuff, it's too big, right? It's like a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
400-pound machine. It's like we had
For
no
sure.
idea we could actually start selling basically tomorrow.
Amazing. So, follow-up question on that. VAT, are you guys handling VAT for that? Or are you referring that out to a different service, or how are you handling that process?
No, so we are handling that in-house, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One is the existing services, they're not geared towards high-value items. So
Hmm.
like some of the existing solutions out there, they charge upwards of like, I think 10%, typically 5 to 10% to handle VAT. Um, Now, the problem with big and bulky, expensive items is VAT is very high, right? So,
Hmm.
our average transaction size, like gross merchandise value wise, is, like 10,000 or more, or 7,000 or more.
Sure.
So the VAT in Europe is 20% of that, right? So you're talking
Yeah,
about
it's a
a
big hit.
$2,000 or a $1,500 VAT bill, on top of which you have to pay, or your customer has to pay 5 to 10% to manage it. Now that's
Mhm.
too high, right? That's not
Yeah, it's a
designed
lot.
for this kind of. And a lot of the e-commerce, international e-commerce customs clearances, they go under de minimis rules. So they're treated differently versus high value
Hmm.
stuff, which is not. It's commercial. It's subject to full taxation, to full duty payments, right? So uh, most of these existing services are not designed to handle commercial customs clearance. We, on the other hand, we have a global network of customs brokers. We've been doing this for 20 years, right? So
Amazing.
we had the network to be able to handle this, right? So uh, this is definitely a, it's an optional. It's not a. We don't do this across the board, but if the brand doesn't want to collect duty and
Hmm.
VAT in other countries, have to report it, have to pay it, have to reconcile it with CPAs and all that stuff. We basically handle it for them. And
That's awesome.
the way we do it on behalf of the buyer, right? So we tell the buyer in, say, UK, that look, if you purchase this item, you're going to pay the VAT and the duty, and it's going to be paid on your behalf to UK customs.
Hmm.
So the brand, the merchant, doesn't actually touch the duty and VAT, has no responsibility to report it, and there has that doesn't need to register with the VAT and the EORI numbers and things like that in Europe. And so we make it really simple, unless the brand already has some kind of a setup and they basically want to handle that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that's one of the bigger challenges I feel like for brands trying to expand internationally. Is like, oh, we got to go through uh, all of the craziness that's associated with that and setup and managing it, and yeah, I mean, it's a nightmare, and I can imagine it's only even more complicated with you know higher GMV products, like you guys are handling. So I think that's cool that you're offering that solution. It allows you, I think, to essentially like allows brands to expand, right, and test the markets without over committing, right? Because it's like if they went into it and they hadn't tested it, right, like yeah, we're gonna set up all the VAT ourselves, and we're gonna find our fulfillment directly that we're gonna maintain. That's a lot of cost without actually testing to whether or not that there's validity to the market with their product. And so leveraging your team and what you guys have built really does allow you to go, oh, like we can actually, like you said in like your case study example, we thought this is going to be like sometime in 2026, we'll get around to it, and literally we can get started, within the onboarding period that you have with a
Yeah.
client, right? Like it's going to be a much shorter thing. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy
I think
because
that's cool.
like there's some brands think of it as, okay, let's test the waters without going and doing all that engagement, right? And some brands, you know, it's actually it's very interesting. The logistics cost actually works out to do this permanently as well, right? Because
Mm,
it's not the obviously shipping a container of goods per unit is a lot cheaper than shipping individual units every time you sell. Like drop shipping is a
sure,
lot more expensive than bulk shipping. But
sure.
you have to keep in mind, it's you either work with a distributor, right, who has to make a
Hmm.
margin, right? So you have to sell wholesale, um,
Hmm.
which a lot of times is upwards of 50%, right? And then the other option is you do it yourself. You find your own 3PLs, your own fulfillment facilities. You have to register locally. It's exposure. You have to report taxes. You have to report VAT, right? And then most importantly, you have to inventory your stuff. You have to have inventory.
Hmm.
And if you're selling expensive, big and bulky items, that's a lot of cost to inventory product, right? So
Yeah.
when you factor all of that in, the cost of inventory, the cost of financing inventory, it actually makes sense. Maybe not like if it's a major market, at some point you graduate to that. But if it's not a major market for you, then it may be a very good permanent solution to just ship.
Yeah.
And because one key point is that we haven't touched on yet is in most of those cases we actually ship the product from the factory in Asia, right? So it could be
Oh,
a
yeah.
yeah,
Interesting.
it could be an Australian brand selling product to New Zealand. We don't ship it from their Australian inventory. We ship it from China, right? Or if it's a UK brand who wants to sell in the United States, we don't ship the product from their UK inventory where they've already spent the money to bring it in, pay duties and taxes. We actually ship it from their Chinese factory or from their Vietnamese factory directly to US, basically cutting out all the extra cost and all the extra duties and taxes and the complexity, right? So that there's a lot of opportunity to optimize. There's a lot of opportunity to
Hmm.
bypass sort of you know double payments of logistics cost and inventory cost and a lot of other ways you save a lot of money doing that.